Good morning, good evening, whatever time you're listening. Welcome to a very special, what would I call this? A kind of supplemental episode to the Practical People. This one's for the Patreon, so it won't be on the normal YouTube. But I have a special guest with me today. I actually am producing my own feature film, The Quantum Terror, and I got my friend Heather Lowe to build my miniatures for me. Heather has never done miniatures for movies before, but she is quite creative with dolls and building doll houses, building a lot of kind of that fun craft stuff that you see people doing on YouTube. So, hi Heather, how are you doing?
Good.
So, I think this is Heather's first interview. Is this your first interview? Have you ever been interviewed
Yes.
before? I thought you got it. Didn't you get interviewed at like some,
Yes.
like they locked you in a theater with a bunch of bad movies and then they interviewed you after a couple of days to see how you held up or something?
I did. It's on the if I'm right, it's on the extras for the movie Prison a Go Go. My friend Kevin and I think are on that. I look really, really haggard. I'm wearing the Screaming Jay Hawkins shirt, and I hadn't slept in some time.
So they like,
I think they were asking me about low budget films and why I enjoyed watching them so much. So I forgot about that. This will be my second interview.
we're Heather's in a remote location, so her Skype slows down sometimes. So there may be a little bit of dragging, but anyway, yeah. So what is it? They locked you in a theater and they just played like really low budget movies all weekend long, right?
Yeah, I think we went in on a Friday night. It was in Hollywood, and we stayed till Sunday. And it's just movies 24 hours a day. We slept in the theater. It was an old theater. Very hard to try to sleep in those seats. It was freezing cold. And they played they played a couple new ones, a lot of old ones that were cool. And it was just fun. It's basically like a bunch of people, excuse my cat, Mystery Science Theater 3000 style. People were just kind of yelling stuff at the screen. So it was tons of fun.
So I came to the right person for building miniatures for my micro budget movie. So I think, like I said, we start the Practical People with a current event, and I just saw, and I know this is kind of near and dear to your heart. You're a huge Hellboy fan, and they just announced that they are rebooting Hellboy. They're not giving us the Hellboy 3 that fans have been asking for years on end, and that Ron Perlman was literally petitioning for. They turned that down, and they're just going to reboot it. And I know you have feelings about this.
I have feelings. Typically when people remake things, any movie like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, I always say, you know what? Let's just pretend they're two different movies completely. We don't need to compare them. They're two different versions. This is not that case. I think Ron Perlman is such an amazing actor. And, like I had said before, you can do anything with makeup. I'm sure we can make anyone look like Ron Perlman in Hellboy makeup. But that voice, you'll never be able to replicate. And no one will ever buy into, I think, another Hellboy. And plus, they've been petitioning forever to get a Hellboy 3. So at this point, I don't want to see it without Ron Perlman.
I saw people comment that, and this is something that I feel kind of strongly about as well. I saw people comment, well, the movies aren't quite like the comic, and they should reboot it and make it more like the comic. But I'm a huge comic book fan, and Mike Mignola, who created Hellboy, is a wonderful artist. I really love his art. But I could never actually get into the Hellboy comics all that much. The movies were what really grabbed me, and I think it was the addition of Guillermo del Toro's voice and Ron Perlman's acting and Doug Jones and the rest of the cast. I think it was their additions to Mike Mignola's vision that really kind of completed it for me. So in my mind, I don't want to see a different Hellboy. I want to, like I said, I feel like it was left suggested in part 2 that there was going to be a part 3, And I feel like
Yeah.
making it a trilogy would just be so much more satisfying. And they only made it what I mean, the first one was about 12 years ago, I think. Maybe not
Maybe.
even that. And then there was a sequel, and everybody was fantastic. I really liked the cast. Um, and I'm blocking on the name of the Firestarter girl, but the actress that played her actually kind of reminds me of you. I always look at her and go, yeah, Heather. Yeah, I mean, maybe if they reboot it and then they cast you, but
Oh, sure.
and then they bring Ron Perlman
Yeah,
back.
me and Hellboy could be a couple. It would be great. Kittens for all.
And I just have to comment that you have two daughters, and one of your daughters made her own Hellboy comic where he fought Macaroni Man. Was that it?
Evil Macaroni Man. He is not someone you mess with. We have a actual and I have the original comic. She was 5 years old maybe when she made it, and I think you had told me about Free Comic Book Day, and we went to a comic book store, and she marched right up to the owner and told her that she had made this Hellboy versus Evil Macaroni Man, and she thought it was so great. She told my daughter if she had went and brought the comic to her that she might put it up in her store, and so she gave her a bunch of free comics, and it was exciting. Evil Macaroni Man is always around our house.
That's awesome. So, okay, so note to the people, if anyone's listening that's in charge of rebooting Hellboy, Evil Macaroni Man is got to be on the table at the very least for
Yeah.
consideration for adversaries. So,
It's not as cheesy as it sounds, guys. He's
I
evil.
see what you did there.
Mm.
Cheesy macaroni.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on to what you do. Now, you and I, at the time of the making of the Quantum Terror, lived nearby, and we've known each other for years. I think I met you when you were 16, 17 years old. So we've been
15, I think.
Really?
15. I
Uh,
think that's probably about it. Yeah. Hmm.
so we've known each other for a really long time, and when I started on the Quantum Terror, I don't think I was. I don't. I don't know, it probably was in my head that I wanted to involve you somehow because I knew that you were really good at that stuff. But I think I was planning to build the miniatures myself at that point, and I was going to try building them out of cardboard. And maybe I didn't want to bother you with it or something like that. But I started building stuff out of cardboard and painting it, and it looked all right, but the cardboard started to warp and buckle under the paint, and I realized that yes, I could probably build some miniatures, but I was already spreading myself too thin with other stuff, and I knew that if I came to you, I knew that you were just going to do a better job because you're so good with, you pretty much do everything. You refinish furniture, you build doll houses, you've made little like freak show figurines. I mean, you just kind of always been, I don't know, how would you describe it? You've just always been kind of like you're an artist, but also, and you do draw and paint as well, but you always kind of find those kind of different crafts and builds and put things together. So I don't
I
know.
like to tinker.
What's that?
I like to tinker. I think that's it. I like to tinker. I like to try a little of everything, see if it's possible. I tinker with things. I think that's what I would say about that.
Well, I mean, you played with Sculpey. You actually, I forgot you made a puppet for the Quantum Terror as well. There's he kind of, you and Jenna Green and myself, it was almost like a knitting circle. We had a day where we just drank coffee and made puppets out of Sculpey and kind of chatted. And yeah, was that your first time